Raise your hand if you are wearing or own something from Converse, Hurley, or Nike. Now raise your hand if you recognize this man. Most of you probably don't. His name is Sophia Bergam, a 50-year-old man. In this picture, he has just fainted while failing to hear news of his daughter, Razia Akhter. Razia was a garment worker who went missing after a factory fire in Ashulia, Bangladesh, an accident that killed 20 and injured many more. Razia's factory was one of many sweatshops overseas. A sweatshop is a place where people work long hours for low pay in poor and, more often than not, dangerous conditions. Nike is a popular store for athletic wear and also one of the biggest companies that use sweatshops. Once Nike sweatshops were discovered, the world responded in horror and protested in many different ways. A popular form was coining Nike's swoosh and logo. The world at this time was beginning to try and stop child labor and other social injustices. So when Nike was discovered, the world began to pressure them really hard for change, while other companies were found to use sweatshops such as Gap, Victoria's Secret, Sears, Walmart, and even Disney. Nike got the worst global attention for two reasons. The first being it is one of the biggest production empires, and two, Nike denied any mistreatment of its workers in any smaller factories, such as Converse and Hurley. So, in the 1990s, the world began to boycott Nike. After 20 long years of protest, Nike finally started to change. But until recently, no one knew quite what happened in the sweatshops. Finally, workers from a Converse factory in Indonesia started to speak up. In the Sukabumi plant, roughly 20 miles from Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia, workers said their bosses often called them dogs and pigs, as well as throwing shoes at them, kicking them, and slapping them in the face. One woman said, "We're powerless. Our only choice is to stay and suffer or speak out and be fired." The woman is very right. Most sweatshops, not just Nike, are in underdeveloped countries, countries that have poor economies and not much work opportunities. In these countries, people will do almost anything for a job and money. The countries that have a reddish or black hue are the countries that are the most underdeveloped in the world. In Australia, a news station went into a top-secret investigation in Malaysia. Their purpose? To find out if rumors of forced labor in Nike factories were true.
A contractor making clothes for sportswear giant Nike has been caught using forced labour in Malaysia. An undercover investigation by 7 News discovered factory workers being paid a pittance and forced to live in squalor while Nike stars earn a fortune.
This is what Nike boasts to the world. My bear is better than your bear. But there are two sides to Nike. The public face, the hidden misery. Tonight, the evidence. It's no great secret that designer sportswear is made in remote factories by poorly paid workers. But what's going on here in Malaysia is something altogether more sinister. It's human trafficking on a massive scale. Here's how it works. Recruiters in poverty-stricken countries offer desperate men and women guaranteed work in Malaysia. But there's a catch, an upfront fee, the equivalent of a year's wages. Now they're in debt. On arrival, their passports are confiscated. Now they're trapped. Then, like these Vietnamese workers we met at a secret location, they must sign 3-year contracts in a language they can't read. It's a virtual prison. To leave, they must buy out their debt and buy back their passports. But they're paid so little, escape is impossible.
What they say in here is, they've been trapped and they've been lied to.
An hour's drive from Kuala Lumpur is High-Tex Apparel, reputedly the largest t-shirt manufacturer in Asia. It's a Nike contractor. Cameras are banned here, but posing as a fashion buyer, I gain access to the factory. Nike signs are everywhere. We saw them on every floor. We then sought out the living quarters of the foreign workers. A group of Bangladeshis pleaded with us to come in. We're led down a filthy corridor, past people sleeping, people eating. They're crammed like cattle, 26 men per room. A staggering 350 Bangladeshi workers live in this one tin shed. Why is it no good?
Because you see so many people low enough room, so many people living here.
There are similar barns for the workers from Burma and Vietnam, and a separate barn for the women. But conditions are even worse outside.
So this is where you bathe. This is the shower. This one company made.
This single trough is where hundreds of men bathe.
30%, 50%, how can shower, how can wash.
Next to the trough, the toilets. Next to the toilets is where they prepare their food. For these men, there is no escape. That is one of the most squalid, heartbreaking sights imaginable. There's hundreds of men all living on top of each other. There's a searing heat, an overpowering stench. It makes you feel really angry what's going on here, and also just overwhelmingly sad. They work 6 days a week for just 45 Australian dollars. That's less than the cost of a single Nike t-shirt.
They have no way of escape. So that is absolutely forced labour.
Nike's hypocrisy was displayed on each level of the factory floor. Nike issued a statement this morning branding the housing
unsuitable and not up to Nike standards.
It states,
investigations are continuing into the claims made by Channel 7.
Nike pays Tiger Woods about $22 million a year to be the face of the Nike swoosh. But these men, the real faces of Nike, get less than $6 a day to live like this. Mike Duffy, 7 News.
After the news report, global consumers were outraged, as well as Nike headquarters in the USA. Almost immediately after this news report came out, Nike sent out an investigation team to Malaysia. Following that, Nike moved all the workers into nicer apartments and given better facilities. All the workers were also given better wages. Nike continues to put millions and millions of dollars into change.